Hi.
Hi, how's it
How,
going?
good. How about you?
Going good. Just one sec. Let me just adjust my chair here.
Okay.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me. This is really great.
Are these all your books in the back? You want to give me a little tour of some of these books?
Um, well, I have the Three Triceratops Tough, a picture book that I wrote with Simon and Schuster, and Dog is a Dog, the one right here in the middle. This one right here. That one's my first book that I ever wrote, and that's with Chronicle Books back in 2011. And then Toad on the Roads with HarperCollins, along with my books with my wife Trisha Shaskan, the Toad Punk Skunks, and which is over here, I think. And then yeah, what else? And the Q and Ray series also I wrote with Trisha. And so yeah, that's been a lot of fun too. But yeah, so those are my books. I love, I worked as an educational assistant and an after school art teacher for about 8 years in the public schools here in Minneapolis, and then from there I went on to be working in preschools for about 12 years. So I was a preschool teacher for 12 years, and yeah, and then I slowly transitioned over here into making books for kids. I originally started. I went to Rhode Island School of Design for illustration, but that was a long, long time ago. But that's what my original intent was, and I made a lot of my own comics, when I was in my 20s, and poster designs for bands and other things like that. But yeah, just started focusing on working on creating books for kids in the past 10 years or so. So yeah.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. So tell me the story of publishing your first picture book for kids.
um well, A Dog is a Dog was a real fun one, because it was it was while I was working as a preschool teacher, and I was coming up with ideas for different books, and I always put in a lot of like fun things in books. Now this was going to be backwards, obviously, because of the Instagram thing. But Dog is a Dog. The fun thing about this book is I always put a little bit of nonsense in my books. You can tell by Pizza and Taco being just two characters that are just like kids. That type of thing. So it goes. A dog is a dog, whether it's naughty or nice. Whether it suns on the beach or glides on the ice, a dog is a dog, if it's skinny or fat. A dog is a dog, unless it's a cat. And so this goes on to having a lot of different animals coming out of costumes and so forth until it comes back to being a dog. But I like putting humor in my books. I like doing that, and so this book came about. I did drawings for it, and I sent it out, and it took a year to have a response to it. I had 9 rejections from different publishers, and then a year after I sent it out, Chronicle Books contacted me, and they really liked it, but they didn't like the art, and so I had to work on the art more. And I don't have an example. I should have an example of my original dummy, but it changed a lot. So yeah, and I really am happy with the end results. So yeah, so that's the story of my first book. But yeah, and then from there, it was just trying to figure out what comes next. And then what came next was the Three Triceratops Tough, which I got that idea from 3 kids in my preschool who were pretending to play the Billy Goats Gruff as dinosaurs. And I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. So, of course, it made absolutely no sense the way they were doing it, but I had to make it make sense. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So when you were young, when you were a little kid, were you drawing all the time, or what is was that your thing? Did you always know you wanted to do that, and the kid thing came later, basically, or?
Yes, that's all I did. I drew all the time. It was my favorite thing to do. I always wanted to be an artist. My parents actually, like after going to art school, I realized that not everybody who likes to make art was supported by their parents. But my parents were always really big into it. My dad was a stockbroker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she also did accounting for things and other stuff. But they both really supported my art. My dad actually, even though he was a stockbroker, painted on the side. So he did oil paintings, landscape paintings, like in the basement. He always had setups for his art. And right now he sells his art at art fairs. And he's retired. He's 86 now, and he's down in Florida, and like he puts on art shows and art fairs and things. So he's always they've always been really super supportive of my art, and so that was a lot of fun growing up and always having supplies. Always, that was something that they never had a problem with me doing, you know, like, so yeah, I always loved making art. I also loved comics growing up, so reading comics was my main thing to read. I was considered a reluctant reader, but at the time I probably read like 3,000 comics. I started thinking about how many comics, because I would go to the comic store at least once a month with my dad and spend all my allowance on comics. And back then it was 60 cents a comic. And so, you know, my allowance wasn't that much, but still, like, you know, like over the course of a month, I would save it all up and be able to get something. So yeah, and so and that's what, like, with Pizza and Taco, which was really cool, is because when I was a kid, I just loved comics so much, and I had friends, a group of friends in elementary school. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and I had a group of friends there, and we all made comics, and we all drew comics, and loved to make art and talk about comics and everything. So it was just a really cool thing. Like I you know, and I grew up on, like, you know, like all like the Richie Riches and the Casper, the Friendly Ghost, and, you know, Underdog, and all those like kind of goofy ones. But also then I got into superhero comics like the X-Men and the Teen Titans and those books, and collected. And I still have quite a number of my collection, but not all my collection. Over time, things kind of whittled down. I think I went from collecting comics to collecting albums in high school, and so so yeah. But yeah. So anyways, and when I was working on the Q and Ray series with Trisha, this is really a lot of fun, because we actually have a landline.
Go ahead, you can get it if you want. It's fine. Let's see who it is.
So good.
Yeah. Say hi to your mom.
One second. Let me
meet the neighbors. You never know what's going to happen on Instagram Live.
It's the vet.
It's the vet. Okay. You see? Aren't you glad you found out?
Yes. Our dog's prescription is filled.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that.
Anyways, but yeah, no, when I was working on this book, it was a lot of fun, because I just delved back into like creating comics, and I had been making picture books for so long, and suddenly, like, I'm working on in this medium that I just loved, and I'm just sitting there in my, you know, at my desk working and just laughing and having so much fun creating this. And when Q and Ray first came out, it was just this, like, there was kind of this joy, just, you know, like, just because it was like, wow, I created a real comic, you know. And like I said, in my 20s, I made a bunch of like my own, you know, like kind of scrappy Xerox copy, you know, comics, you know, into independent, you know, like adult comics, but still, you know, like, this was kind of like, wow, this is a real thing, and I was really excited, and that's what brought me to creating Pizza and Taco, because I really.
So tell everybody more about Pizza and Taco, because it is so fantastic. It's sort of like an advanced Elephant and Piggy of sorts. It's like these new characters blasting on the scene. Tell me about how you came up with it and all the rest.
Well, Pizza. This is the book right here, and Pizza and Taco is a really. It was because we do a lot of school visits with Q and Ray, especially when we did a lot of school visits, we would create characters with kids, original comic characters, and kind of show kids how they can create their own. And one of the things, one of the big rules is to keep it to simple shapes because you're drawing these characters over and over and over again, like you know, hundreds of times in just one book. You know, you're drawing each character, and so that was a really important thing to like get across to kids, to just use simple shapes and that type of thing. And then like we give some background to the characters before. You know, before you start writing a story, you want to have a little bit of a background and think about, you know, like who are these characters? You know, what do they like to do? What are they afraid of? What all these types of things. And one of the things is what's their favorite food. And everywhere, every school that we went to, it was either pizza or tacos. That was their favorite food. And you know, and it's funny because like my favorite food is pizza, and Trisha's favorite food is tacos. You know, and so like that's it kind of made sense, and I was like, oh, you know, and there's that weird nonsense of like, oh, well, why don't I just make this into a why aren't pizza and taco best friends, you know? And we had characters like Pizza Man because like every once in a while somebody would pick a triangle head, and so then I started thinking about, well, how simple can I draw a piece of pizza and a taco, you know, pretty much a triangle and a half circle. And so I started having a lot of, you know, like you can see like it's just like a half circle here and then the triangle shape, you know, just trying to keep it as simple as possible. So I could draw them over and over again. I was really also inspired by the Narwhal and Jelly series. I just love that. Trish and I also teach like week-long comic classes at the Loft Literary Center here in Minneapolis, and it was really cool to see because like kids would come in and they'd be drawing all the Narwhal and Jelly characters, and just seeing that, like I wanted something that kids could draw easily themselves, because I think that's really powerful for kids. And I've been doing that with different things where I've been drawing. Had a couple of school visits this past week and online, and showing kids how to draw a pizza and taco, but also showing them how to draw other characters that might be food related comic characters, you know, and the kids are immediately drawn to it and just drawing immediately and showing me their drawings. And it's just really cool to see, you know, that kind of thing. And there was one kid who already had created, because they knew that I was coming, they had created a whole book on spaghetti and meatball.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And I love how hamburger and hot dog have cameos in your book.
Yes.
Those are important, you know, best supporting actress and actor, little. Actually, I think they're both boys, but
yeah. They're not very nice to hamburger and hot dog. And you know, some people have pointed that out, but I think one of the things about pizza and taco is that they're kids and they have flaws and they're not perfect, and they're going to be jerks sometimes, and sometimes they're, even in this book, they're kind of jerks to each other, and like, you know, that just happens. Like, you know, like you can't have a best friend without having a best friend fight. You can't have, you know, like you can't grow up without having, you know, kids around that you're not that friendly with. You know, it just happens. You can't be friends with everyone, and you know, like it's an unrealistic adult you know, perception of childhood. You know, like I think, you know, if you think back to when you were in kindergarten or first grade, there were kids that you liked and there were kids that you didn't like, and there were kids that, you know, you wanted to play with, and kids that were like, God, do I have to play with that kid again? And so, and I'm not saying that that's good. I'm just saying that that's real, you know, and you know, flaws in characters are real, and these characters have a lot of flaws. Not perfect characters, so yeah.
And how is it collaborating with your wife? What is that like, and how has the coronavirus sort of impacted your work together?
Well, I'm actually working on dummying out a picture book that she just wrote. While I'm working on, I just finished the dummying out the third Pizza and Taco. The second Pizza and Taco comes out next year, and it's Pizza and Taco best party ever. And so they throw a party, but like I just finished dumbing out the third book, which is where they make a comic book that she just wrote. We work really well together, actually, which is really nice. we kind of always when we're working on stuff, you know, she's written probably like 3 or 4 picture books since you know, like since working on something to collaboratively last time, and most of them are things that I wouldn't work on. And now this last project, I was like, I really like this project. I think I could work on this project. And so when we work on projects together, it's typically something that we're both invested in, and we're not forcing it. It's something that we both really like and want to do, and that's really important. And we're also like really respectful of each other. We you know, we have fights, but like when it comes to writing and creating books together, we try to make the best book we can. So we're really working on doing that. And so I think it's funny because I think we rub each other a little bit more wrong when it's a book that we're not working on. When it's one of our own things, our own projects, you know, and we're critiquing our, you know, something that like I'll be critiquing something that she's working on that I'm not working on with her, or she'll be critiquing something that I'm working on that that she's not working on with me. And yeah, we're a little like, we tend to be like not as good friends. So, but yeah, but everything, and you know, for me, like the one thing that was kind of crummy was with all the coronavirus stuff is that we basically ended up canceling probably like 8 different events, like school visits and so forth, because you know, for us it was pretty much, I think it was March 14th, I think was when we started shutting down here in Minneapolis, and we had, I think, 3 events the next week at different schools to go to and different things like that, and ones that hadn't been figured quite out for, you know, for May and June, and so that was kind of tough. But we work from home anyways. We both have a studio in our house. We both have, you know, places where we work, and so that really hasn't affected. Luckily, I was on deadline, so like I just focused on that, and then on deadline again. So I'm yeah, like for me, I really enjoy working at home and being isolated and doing this is how I focus. So I don't think with all the school visits that we had, I don't think I would have been able to finish the 2nd book and dumbing out the 3rd book all in this time as well. So yeah.
And do you have any parting advice for aspiring illustrators, artists, children's book writers?
You know, my advice is for kids more than for
Great.
aspiring, and that's, if you like something, just keep doing it. And when I talked about how I had those friends in elementary school that I made comics with, out of that group of kids, I think there were like 5 of us. Only 2 went on to be artists, and that's me and and another friend. And he does fine art. I do comics, or I do in picture books. But I was probably, out of those 5 friends, like probably like, as talent goes, like 5th. So, but I just kept doing it. And nowadays, like if those kids who are now adults would be drawing again, you know, they wouldn't be as strong of a drawing artist as I am, because they just stopped doing it. And so yeah, and they're having very happy lives doing what they're doing. But still,
Well, that's good.
just
Yeah.
keep doing it. Don't let other kids get you down. If you see somebody else being a better artist than you, that's great. Just keep working at it. You'll get better and better. And if you like music, if you like science, if you like anything, just keep working at it. So yeah, that's my advice to kids.
I'm gonna play this for my kids later. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the hours of entertainment you've given us during this quarantine with Pizza and Taco. Really grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye.